Good evening, Gonzo. How is one tonight?
I am very well, thank you. How's yourself? How's your betting going?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm all right, thank you. I'm not too bad. He's still here. He's still here. There's a week to go. A week and 1 day. Next Thursday's transfer window closing, slamming shut at 11 p.m. as they call it. Marco is still here. Gonzo, are you? Apart from bored of the talk, are you surprised he's still a West Ham player? Are you hoping he departs before then?
I'm not surprised, but I also think had he have gone and he'd have asked if I was surprised, I probably would still say I'm not surprised. Unsurprisingly, anything can happen, and it usually does, as the old saying goes. So I don't know. It's a drama. Do I want him to go? Ideally, he comes back. He gets his mind back on the job and he returns to the Marko Arnautovic we certainly saw, last season in particular, the second half of last season. That would be absolutely great for us if we had a harmonious squad and Arnautovic at the spearhead of our attack. That would be the best thing for me. So if that happens, I don't want him to go. If what's going to happen is more of the same of what happens preceding Bournemouth, and we're going to get a half-motivated guy, then there's no point. If that was the case, I'd play Hernandez ahead of him anyway. So is his head right? That's the thing, and we don't know.
That's my worry, actually, that he remains here. Even if he plays, I actually think he'll play against Wolves, in all honesty. I think we'll see it. I don't think we'll see him at Wimbledon, but I think we'll see him at Wolves. And my worry is that he plays that game, looks up for it, etc., and we all think, oh, excellent. And then come another 4 or 6 weeks, his head's not right again. Window's shut. We've now got half motivated and Arnautovic on our hands. Are you resigned to him being sold in the summer?
Not necessarily. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if there are no takers. I mean, they've played it very poorly. We've spoken about advice before on this podcast, and you do wonder some of the advice that these people get. I wonder sometimes if it's better to have an agent that's not a member of the family, because this doesn't play out well for Arnautovic, because his value has gone down, which is going to make it harder for him to be sold. It's going to make it harder for an offer that's appealing to our owners to come in. And surely if they want to leave, they want Marko to be the Marko Arnautovic £50 million player. So our owners get £50 million and they say, oh, great, and then everybody's happy. If it does go until the summer, nobody's coming in with £50 million in the summer. I think in the summer, if this continues and there's a big old strop on until the end of the season, and I did say strop on and not another thing that sounds similar, there's a big old strop on between now and the end of the season, then he's looking at 20 million. I think. I can't see anyone coming in, which, of course, maybe that's the plan, is to drive his value down so much that actually our owners accept the 35 million euros on offer from China. It's a tough one, mate. I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes on transfer deadline day either. I think it won't happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, some of the questions from social media, which we'll get on to soon, there's a couple of questions about Arnautovic, hence why I'm asking you very, very broad questions so far. For those listening and thinking, what is the latest with Arnautovic? What's actually going on? There's been no bid from China that's tickled West Ham's fancy. So currently, he's a West Ham player. There's no bid on the table. He's just going to have to put up with it. But West Ham are trying to compromise and saying, we'll let you go in the summer, etc. And if that changes, you'll hear about it in a video from us soon. That's as it stands. As for transfer targets, West Ham's one player we were linked with last week, Piatek, has now joined AC Milan. So he's off the list. He's away to AC Milan. There's another player we were linked with who's, I think he's away to sign for Bordeaux, but he's not signed for Bordeaux yet. And Jos Maja, the Sunderland striker, his contract's up at the end of the season. He's been banging him in at League One, a very young player. Now, that wouldn't have been an Arnautovic replacement. That's not who he's going to be replaced, but I think it was sort of just an option to have in the squad, maybe your third, fourth choice striker. It's probably a Perez replacement in all honesty, because it's a similar fee. I think he's going to end up in France or the Bundesliga if a German club make a late bid. But would you like to see him here at West Ham?
No, I wouldn't. I've seen the documentary about Sunderland, and I feel really bad for him, actually. You can't help looking at things like that and thinking, that could have been us. I've got no affiliation for Sunderland in any way, shape or form, but I watched that and I thought those fans deserve better. Those fans deserve a lot better than that. And I saw when we were linked to him, I didn't know that his contract was up. I thought, no, actually, does a club, let's be fair, that has Arnautovic, Xavier Hernandez and people like that need to take somebody like that? I actually think that we very rarely speak fondly of other clubs on here. In fact, particularly in the previews, we absolutely slate them. And, we lay the boot into a lot of clubs, me in particular. And, but I just thought, actually, I quite like, it'd be nice for them, bearing in mind that the terrible time that their fans have had. They've actually, he fired them, got them back up the league, but obviously he's on his way anyway. So, yeah, it's, shame for them, really. They don't deserve it. Long, hard suffering fans, mate.
Yeah. That Netflix certainly hit you hard, really, when you were watching. As a football fan, you could certainly, Netflix went there thinking Sunderland were going to win the championship. They thought, wow, brilliant, we've signed a thing. They're going to win the championship and we're here to film it. And I've seen someone summed up brilliant and said they went to film a dream, but they filmed a nightmare instead. And exactly what happened in that documentary. But he's 28 years old. He's banging them in League One. Before the weekend, he had a goal in every 115 minutes, which is exceptional. It doesn't matter what level you play at. That's a fantastic record. Add in the fact he's 20 as well. I think it suits us. And I think it would have been a good gamble, actually, for West Ham to buy him. In part, it depends where you read the rumour. Some were suggesting we were going to loan him back to Sunderland and say, here, you keep him for the end of the season. We're just going to own him, but you can keep him and don't worry about his contract up. You can have the money, etc. I think that would have been ideal for all parties. A bit disappointing he's off to Bordeaux if he does go there. I think he's going to be worth a lot of money in the future. He's someone that's won me a lot of money anyway. When I do my anytime goal scorers treble, he's someone I always look for. I didn't do him last weekend because he didn't play the weekend before because he's been linked away, and he will move this window. He's definitely going this window. So I didn't do him at the weekend. Then he played and scored. Oh, I missed the trick there. But anyway, Josh Maja, remember the name because he'll probably be in the Premier League in a few years' time. Another player we're linked with that we won't be getting because he signed for Marseille is Super Mario Balotelli. While that rumour might have been sporadic at best, what did you make of it when you seen it?
We need a period of stability. And the Marko Arnautovic saga has shown that. For a long time, at West Ham, we've had to get players that are damaged goods, and I always cite the example of Paolo Di Canio. Paolo Di Canio, who is of perfectly sound mind, doesn't play for West Ham United. He plays all his career at Real Madrid or whatever the case may be. We take players that are damaged goods. Payet is another example. Payet has had all the ability in the world, but he had no consistency in his game. That's why the clubs avoided him, and then we took a punt, and then the rest is history, so to speak. But I think the Arnautovic saga has shown us that these damaged goods players, the sort of cliche is trotted out there: when you sign a bastard, don't forget that, don't complain when you've got a bastard. And I sort of get that. And if that's the case, then we need to stop signing people that are high maintenance. And Balotelli is high maintenance. You would never put any money on it working out. And if you're not going to put any money on it working out, like your goal scorer at Sunderland, then you're taking a hell of a risk. So what are the chances of it? What, 1 in 4 that it might work out? Well, that's a hell of a risk. What is he? He's probably 3 times more likely to go, what's it's up? And it'd have to be straight, cause unrest in the dressing room, throw a moody one at the club, go missing, set his house on fire. Those are all more likely than him coming into West Ham and being a success and then scoring 10 goals between now and the end of the season or whatever. Just ain't worth the risk.
Yeah, I'm glad we never got him. Mancini actually sold Balotelli. So Pellegrini never had him at Man City. I've seen a few people go, but Pellegrini knows him. I was like, well, does he? He's never had him at Man City, so does he actually know him? I think people just assume Pellegrini had him at Man City. He didn't. Mancini sold him. And secondly, this is what I call a desperate signing, or would have been a desperate signing. And I put Jermaine Defoe in that category. He went to Rangers on loan. I've seen some people say, we could have had him on loan. But for what? Like, this is we're not a desperate club anymore. Listen, a year ago, I would have said to you, we probably need to take a gamble on one of these players. We need something. We're in a desperate situation. We're not in that situation anymore. Now, it's about, I think every time we do a transfer, we need to have an eye on the following season and say, will this guy be in our squad next season? If the answer is maybe not, then don't sign him. What's the risk? Get the guy in, get a youngster in that says, well, he should be in the squad. If he's good enough and does well, he will be in. Then get him in. That's the player I want to see. No time. There's no point in doing these short-term fixes anymore. They're expensive. They always come in on high wages. There's no money at the end of it. When they come to the end of their contract and stuff, it's not worth anything. You've used up their peak value, if you like, etc. So there's just no benefits whatsoever to signing players like this. I'm glad we never got Balotelli. Anyways, any other transfer rumours that you've seen circling West Ham? There's another Czech Republican centre midfielder that admittedly I've never heard of, and I'm hoping it's a Huselos special if it's true, but again, a very sporadic link. Anything else you've seen, Gonzo?
No, I've not had my finger on the pulse, to be fair. Last 2 or 3 days, been back to work and after the weekend, and yeah, not a lot of football stuff going on in my house at the moment.
Anyway, we're going to move swiftly on to all the questions. There's not that. Well, actually, there's one more bit of news. Andy Carroll's house is up for sale.
Oh, I might have a look at that. You know,
I'll send you the link.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice. We're looking to move. Actually,
I put the link out earlier, and I got told I wasn't allowed, or I wasn't supposed to, because it's a security type thing. So I deleted it, but it's easy to find, in all honesty. He's got something in his driveway that only Andy Carroll would have in his driveway.
A sofa?
No, no, but I'm sure if you actually Googled Andy Carroll driveway, you might find the answer and you'll be able to find the house. But anyway, his house is up for sale. I mean, do you think this means he's resigned to leaving West Ham at the end of his contract in the summer?
Maybe. I don't know. Do they move house? I guess he'd be silly if he didn't. I mean, putting your house up for sale doesn't mean you've sold your house. Maybe he's in negotiations at the moment. Maybe I would be more surprised if he stayed than if he left. Now, obviously, the thing is, if he's putting his house up for sale, then I would guess he would sort of have an idea of where he's going. Otherwise, he wouldn't, because he might get a London club. I don't know. Does he know where he's going? Has he agreed to sign for someone on the free? That's the other thing. Has he been told, West Ham, you're not getting a new contract? And in which case his agent has gone to somebody else and said, okay, and he's available and he's signing for someone else on the free. It might be that. They might have done a really good job of keeping it quiet. Alas, not the house part. But I guess people are going to know if your house is worth a couple of £1 million or whatever, that you're going to know if you put it up on the. People are going to know if you put it up on the market, aren't they? You're not going to keep that bit quiet.
5 million.
Oh, I might struggle. I might struggle then, to be fair.
Need some more views.
I'll buy the sofa. I'm going to nick the sofa. Take me family.
Okay, we'll just add a couple of clickbait things into the title of this video, and it might earn a little bit more money. We'll just add KSI or something.
Yeah.
Title of the video might get some more views.
DFS sofas. They could sponsor. I'll talk about the sofa for a bit. You know?
DFS. But anyway, on to the questions. The first one is from a private message from a friend of the channel. You've seen him on the channel a couple of times before, Luke Malden. He says, now, this is a very Luke Malden question. I mean that in the nicest possible way to Luke. I hope he takes that the right way. He says, do you think any of our players are world class?
I think Lanzini almost was. I thought if he hadn't get injured before the World Cup, I'd believe it or not, I think Argentina missed him in that World Cup. I think if things would have been differently, we could have been coming out at that World Cup thinking, hold on a second, Lanzini's only got 2.5 years left on his contract. He made Messi look brilliant. That sounds ridiculous, but you know what I'm saying. He made the team tick. Things could have gone very, very differently. He could have been that guy. And he may well still be world class, depends how good his knees are afterwards. And I guess Declan Rice has got the world at his feet, hasn't he? Literally. In terms of international football, but at the moment I wouldn't say we had a world-class player, but there's a couple there who could be. No,
not for me. Easy no for me, but I'm quite funny when it comes to saying a player's world-class. I can get a bit funny about those things. Rice has got the potential. I think Dimitri Payet was world-class when he was at West Ham, but no, absolutely not, unfortunately. Moving on to the Twitter questions, Daniel Baines says, I think we're starting to play some of the best football we've ever seen West Ham play. However, we remain mid-table until we become consistent. In my opinion, the Premier League is much better quality than it was last season all around. So we made the step to get Pellegrini at the right time. I was sure sticking with Moyes and Pearce was the right option, but had it done so, I think we'd be in the bottom 7-8 teams right now. What do you make of that comment? Because I asked earlier if some people had comments rather than questions, and Daniel sent that comment in.
Well, thanks for sending it in, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, good points. Good points. Yeah, I definitely agree. If the Premier League's a little bit more competitive, We lack consistency, but that's okay. That's okay. But that's we've never had consistency, really. We just never have. You know, one season in the 80s, we had a consistent season. We've never had consistency. That's West Ham. When we have consistency, we'll be challenging for the top four places. We haven't bought enough players. It's funny. The more you spend, the more consistent you get. I think there's probably some direct parallels between the two things. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying the football, and this is really all I asked for. I didn't go mad when we lost to Bournemouth. Was completely predictable. I think somebody actually said we have. I think it might have been ZP Hammer. They said we seem to. I don't know. We seem to have an allergy to going seventh. He said something like that. Every time we have a possibility to go seventh, we get the old itch on and we don't bother. So. Yeah, good post.
Yeah, I agree with him. It is all about, I think whoever is the most consistent out of the teams under 6 will finish 7th, really. Whoever can get a couple of bonus points against the top 6. I mean, the mad thing is we are getting those points. You know, we beat Man United, we drew with Chelsea, etc. We beat Arsenal. We are picking up the bonus points. The problem is we're chucking them away when we fail to beat, Burnley, Brighton, Bournemouth, etc. When we're losing those games, that's when we're chucking away the bonus points. So we're sort of coming where we should be in terms of points. One thing I like, I know a lot of people don't like stats, but I was looking at what the league table should look like in terms of expected goals. So every team scored the goals they were expected to in terms of chances in a game. Wolves are 5th, believe it or not. It's because of their defence, really. Their defence is that tight. They just aren't expected to concede much. So when they do concede, usually it's a decent goal against them, etc. Their side with consistency, believe it or not, we are actually a couple of places higher in the league than we're supposed to be, thanks to Fabianski. It just shows how much your keeper is worth, really. I mean, look at that thing. If you're a couple of places ahead than where you should be, you've either got someone that keeps whipping out goals and not meant to be scored in, Anderson, or you've got a really good keeper in Fabianski. We've got a bit of both. William Field at Willfield71 says, do you think all this business with Marko Arnautovic has meant the club has not addressed other areas that needed looking at in the team, such as a lack of pace and energy in centre midfield?
Hello, William. Possibly. I think we're in a project with Pellegrini, though. And I'm patient with it, and I know he's clearly going to be a patient man. So I don't think these was ever going to be solved in one transfer window or one season, let's say. I'm really looking forward to seeing Pellegrini's team after 2.5 seasons, if you know what I mean. Geo just mentioned Wolverhampton Wanderers, and they've got a very, very good defence. I mean, I really like Willy Bolly. Actually, someone's going to take that sentence and snip the Bolly off, aren't they? And then they're going to repost that. But for all their good defence, I do think their midfield is sensational. They've got a wonderful, wonderful midfield with João Moutinho. Neves is fantastic, and then when they got Gibbs White to come in as well, they got Costa, they got Jota who joins in, and I think their midfield is pretty much on a par with some of the teams that are above them. And I think until we address that, I think we've got a defensive midfield thing sorted out. I think we've certainly got a player in Nasri who's come in, who's going to help a lot along, and I think when Lanzini comes back, there's going to be a place for him. Whether it's in midfield or not is another matter, but I don't think we've forgotten to do it, because I don't think this is a stick in plaster solution that gets done in January. I think this is something that gets done in the summer, when hopefully we get a sizable transfer budget as well, and we bring in the £40 central midfielder or something.
I actually don't think it has. I don't think the money is there, regardless. Marko Arnautovic stop, no Marko Arnautovic stop. I just don't think we have the money to bring in the centre midfielder, etc. in this window, and I don't think they find it of value. So I don't think we'd have brought in. If anything, the Marko Arnautovic thing, I think, has helped Pellegrini in the board, in the sense that we are all focusing on Arnautovic. Nobody's noticed that we've not spent any money, in a way. We know we're a week before then the transfer window, not one person is going, hang on a minute, where's all the cash going? We've not spent anything here. We've got a freebie in, and that's it. So I think it's actually helped the club in a really strange way. Ian Gravett says, I know people are slating Andy Carroll. However, do you feel if we persist with him up front, wouldn't it be best to get Snodgrass supplying the crosses?
Ian, I think Snodgrass would probably provide a decent cross for Andy Carroll. As for the persisting bit, I've got to say I disagree. I think for too long we've persisted with Andy Carroll. I think it's now time to cut our losses and start to play a different style of football. I was disappointed to see how many long balls were launched up to Andy on at the Bournemouth game. So, no, I don't. That's one thing I don't want to do is persist. To persist suggests you're struggling. If you persist at, at something, I want us to excel at something. So no, not at all, mate. But I do agree about the crossing from Snodgrass.
Yeah, I agree with his perspective about Snodgrass. But the one thing is, I would say is let's get Snodgrass on the left. I know he's a right winger and he likes to cut back and stuff. But I would just like us to see us swing crosses in. Old school. It's a very old thing. Matt Etherington's the last player I can think of that we had on the wing with his correct foot that would beat a man and just whip the ball into the box, etc. I just want to see a little bit of that for Andy Carroll. I just feel that we're doing. He's not getting the full service. He's not getting the service he should get in order to get the best of Andy Carroll. Now the question is the best of Andy Carroll good enough for Pellegrini's system? That's up for debate. But I just don't think we're doing all we can as a team for Andy Carroll, if that makes sense. And I think the best way to do that is by supplying him with crosses, and we're not doing it yet. Irish Tommy at Tomster36 says, if Anatovich doesn't leave in this window, is it really possible for him to play again this season, seeing as he doesn't want to be here and has burnt a lot of bridges with fans?
Yes, I do think it's possible for him to play again. I don't we cut our nose off to spite our faces. I think if we're in a situation whereby he is the best option to play up front for us, then I think he has to play. We're not in the old days anymore. Players move on. You may well see that Mark Noble is the last guy that any of us see in our lifetime, depressing as that sounds, that plays his whole career for West Ham. So players move on. And he moves on probably more than most. And I don't think West Ham are not yet good enough, and our squad is not yet good enough that we can afford to rule out somebody of his huge talent. And on his day, he is one of the best strikers in the Premier League, and we're just not good enough yet to bench that. And as much as we all want Silva to work out whatever and say, I just played a young lad from now until the end of the season. And whilst I do think we could do that and we'd be safe, and I do think Silva would score some goals, incrementally, the positions in the Premier League are worth so much more money. We could find ourselves in a position that we earn 15 million more by finishing higher, and that's certainly I'd like to see the new scouting structure with an additional 15 million quid, certainly. So I think he if he's ready and he's reintegrated, we have to play him.
Yeah, I think so. I think actually Wolves away is probably a good game for him to play because it's an away game. So it's not at home where people, he might have thousands of people booing him, etc. Getting him involved in an away game, if the fans can see him putting a shift in, even getting on the score sheet, a lot of people go, right, okay, let's just cut him some slack, give him a break, see what he can do, and then we'll sort of readdress this in the summer type thing. And I think most people will get behind him, but I don't think all will. I think he has burnt his bridges with a lot of fans out there. And it's going to be a ticking time bomb a little bit next time he has a home game, and the fans are going to be watching him thinking, well, let's see if this guy is going to put a shift in. And if he is lazy, and we've seen him be lazy for West Ham before all this, there's some games he's not turned up for. There's some games where he does look like he can't be arsed and he doesn't want to be involved, and he gets his body language is a bit we've all seen it. Away to Brighton was one of the prime examples. And if he does that at a home game, I think fans will be watching him a bit. He's under that magnifying glass now. And that's when I think people moan and groan. And if he gets subbed off and he's played a bit crap, people might boo like they did against Arsenal when he did his wave. A lot of people go, oh, hang on a minute. So it's fragile. The relationship between him and the fan base is fragile now, but it's not unfixable, I don't think. A few goals, a few 100% performances, and I think a few fans will chill out a bit. Mark at Mark WHUFC says, where do you think Lanzini will fit in when he's fit? Just so you know, Lanzini had his first training session today with the rest of the team. Now, it was like a no-touch training session. It was only a little bit, but he's on his way back. So he says, will he play one striker with Lanzini behind, or play Lanzini out wide, or play him in the centre midfield with Declan Rice?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this very recently, but thanks for the question anyway. I would see him playing as a second striker. I think that's the way we fit his his skills into the team, particularly with regards to the midfield. I think Lanzini can play in midfield, but I think if he's playing, for instance, I think he's playing in the role that Nasri is playing currently. That's where Lanzini plays, in that sort of free role. So Pellegrini doesn't play a 4-4-2 anymore. Pellegrini plays the one up and almost. So you've got two midfielders, one slightly deeper in Declan Rice, then you've got the ones to sort of give and go and travel a bit in Mark Noble. And at the moment, you've in a free role, you've got Nasri, and that's the sort of role I see Lanzini in.
It very much depends on the opposition for me. You know, if we're at home, obviously I want to see him further forward. If we're away to sort of a top 6 side, I'd like to see him inside in midfield with Rice and probably 8 others. So he's got the license to go forward, but when we're defending, he tucks back in, etc., etc. But I actually think Lanzini is going to have a variety of positions under Pellegrini, and actually I think it's perfect because the opposition manager, Gonzo always says in previews, you know, let's give them something to think about. And actually I think Lanzini is that thing, because opposition manager is going to go, bloody hell, where are they going to be playing their playmaker this game? Last game he was out wide. The game before that he was in behind Anatovich. The game before that he was sitting beside Declan Rice. And if we can keep moving about and keep him influencing games from different pockets of the pitch, then, you know, it'll be a fantastic watch. It's a bit like Christian Eriksen at Spurs in a way. Sometimes he'll be playing in behind Kane, and then, you know, if it's not going right, Pochettino will take off Sissoko or someone, put Eriksen right in alongside Harry Winks, and he'll put another player in Eriksen's position. And all of a sudden, he's got Eriksen pulling strings from deep. Who's marking Eriksen? The opposition's attacking midfielder. They can't do it. They don't know how to tackle. They don't want to tackle. They don't want to track. So Eriksen's then all of a sudden got all the time in the world, able to ping 30-yard passes across the pitch and stuff, and then it just opens up a whole different ball game. I think Pellegrini will use Lanzini as his Christian Eriksen, as Pochettino does. He won't have a position. Steve at Bowling Badges, Steve says, or Cockney Hammer if you're on the forum, he says, we need another class striker. Who would be your choice? I mean, this is a good question, because we've discussed quite a lot of strikers, this, that, and the other. We've obviously been looking. Who would your number one be?
Hello, Steve. Well, you know, because obviously Steve's on the forum every day posting, and I posted the thing about telling, you know, asking for people to tell me about the strikers. There was a list that came through, and obviously Geo's just done his video. One of the last ones in Geo's video was Jovic, and the video Geo said was complicated transfer. Because he's currently on loan at Frankfurt, so it would either be him or, funny enough, he's the other guy that really impressed me. And when I looked at all of them, was his partner at Frankfurt, Haller. Looks a real player, this geezer. I would not be at all disappointed if we got that bloke. So, yeah, I mean, there's no one standing out screaming at me, because I've got to say, it's my knowledge is woefully low. But I have decided, I'll tell you, it is something. I went down to Bournemouth, I watched the game. I have decided I would not like Callum Wilson. I don't think I don't think he would fit in. I don't think he gets involved in the build-up play quite enough. I'm not convinced. He always scores against us. I know he always scores against us, but that is not. I'm sorry. He's a decent player. That is not a £50 million player.
Interesting. I'll tell you what's good for Jovic now. Jovic is still my answer. Barcelona are obviously sort of expected to go for him in the summer. They've just announced today they're signing De Jong in the summer off Ajax for 90 million. Now, do Barcelona have enough for a £40 million player as well? Possibly if they sell Coutinho, then they do, because rumours are he could be on his way out of Barca already. But if they don't, I do wonder if they've got enough money to go get Jovic as well. If they don't, then he's there. You just got to rely on Jovic rejecting a move to Frankfurt, basically, and going back to Benfica. Then he's 40 million. And there's not many strikers out there. Me and Gonzo were saying this about other strikers that were being linked with, saying that 40 million seems to be the price. Well, actually, I think Jovic makes 40 million look cheap. I really actually do genuinely believe 40 million looks like a bargain for that guy. So that's still my number one choice. And back to the questions, Joshua, Jacobah man, says, who should be on corner duty? It seems like Anderson's corners aren't the greatest. I'm not going to lie. When we beat Arsenal, I didn't really want to complain too much about it because we won. But his corners were awful. Bloody hell, they were really bad, his corners.
Yeah, it's just the curse of West Ham. Unfortunately, maybe someone buried a Tottenham scarf at a training ground, both training grounds. At some point, we can't take corners. We haven't got corner takers. We never do really, and haven't had a sustained period of taking corners well for a long period of time. probably I would give him to Cresswell and Snodgrass, but wouldn't expect him to get any better. I just think we're cursed.
Snodgrass is the best corner taker we've had in a long time, I think. All his corners are pinpoint, right in between the penalty spot and the 6-yarder. That's where you want it. Whipped into that area there. Too far for the keeper to come, but close enough for your attacker to get on the end of it and be within a decent shout, again, on target. The problem is he's not guaranteed to start. I would like to see Cresswell take more of them as well. Be interesting to see if Nasri can whip a corner. If there's someone that put money on that can smack one in, it would be him. But he's accurate as well. I'd almost like to see us do with Nasri. I'd almost like to see us gather Southgate a little bit. One of England's best things in the World Cup were the corners, and they didn't whip them in. They just put them in so accurate that Maguire and Stones knew exactly where they were going. And it's sort of like, if you can get the ball here, this high off the ground, I'm winning it. And they would use Dell for Henderson or whatever, just go, and it goes, no curve, just straight, in a straight line, for your defender go, bang. He knows where it's going every single time. And I just think we need to gather Southgate up our corners sometimes and get Nasri being the one that floats in with Balbuena, the main one that goes boom, in he goes. Still on Anderson, but different type of question by Jack says, will we keep Anderson in the summer? To give this a little bit of context, in case you don't know, on social media, there was a few Liverpool fans saying, wouldn't mind Anderson in the summer, etc. I think he's starting to attract the attention of the top 6 fan base at the very least. Doesn't necessarily mean he's linked to a club, but the fans are starting to pick up on him.
Yeah, we will keep Anderson. I think we can pretty much nail that down now. Pellegrini signed up with a job and he was a hard guy to attract. He was given certain assurances. I've no doubt about that. The first one was how much money he was going to get to spend each season for the duration of his 3-year contract. The second one was he wouldn't sell anybody he didn't want to sell. The final decision, it keeps coming back from the club, keeps getting leaks. The final decision rests with the manager. So I just can't see it happening. He fought tooth and nail to get Anderson. I don't think Liverpool can afford Anderson anyway. And they could have no complaints because they sold Coutinho for whatever, 150 million or whatever. I just think Pellegrini says, no, I'm building a team. And then whatever, even if they come in with 80 million, I think we turn it down.
Every player's got a price at the end of the day. But the thing is, his price has doubled since arriving at West Ham. I think he's turning into a £70 million player because he's now Premier League proven. Before he wasn't Premier League proven, that's what makes him a little bit risky. But whoever does fork out, take the risk, get him in. And if he proves it, which he has done so far, your price automatically goes up straight away. It just goes up like that. And so we can now add that to his footballing CV a little bit and say, well, he rebought him for 40. He's done well. He's one of the most creative players in the Premier League. He's scoring goals. He's creating chances, etc. 60, 70 million at least to get him out of West Ham. So if a club wants to pay that, then, fair enough. Off he goes. Huselos and Pellegrini get a shed load of cash to replace him with. Everyone's a winner, really. I'm quite relaxed about stuff like this these days now because of Huselos and Pellegrini. At Fazamania says, who is the most important player in our club at the moment?
Declan Rice. Or Mark Noble, one for the young, one for the identity.
Yeah, I can see why you'd go for Noble. Depends how you emphasise important, isn't it? Depends what context. Who's the first name on the team sheet, or is it like who's the one that's irreplaceable at the club, or who's got the most influence at the club? It's all different answers. So getting Martin Noble. Funny enough, even a year ago, you'd say Lanzini, wouldn't you? Just like that, you'd say Lanzini, but now it probably is Declan Rice. It's also because of his value, isn't it? Because of how much he's worth and how hard it would be to replace him. Lanzini, I think he's our best player in our squad, Lanzini, but we've got Nasri, we've got Anderson. We don't have anybody, I don't care, we've got Carlos Sanchez, we don't have anybody that can fill Declan Rice's shoes. Stephen at AdiMonk64 says, kind of interest from Chinese club being interpreted as tapping up as we hadn't put him and Anatovich up for sale.
Well, maybe, but good luck making that one stick with FIFA. Good luck making anything stick with FIFA. Technically, possibly, but everyone taps everybody up. Just no chance. My basic thoughts are on it. Don't expect anything, any suspicion or any accusation to come to fruition. Nothing will happen because of it. So, accept it, move on.
I don't think it is tapping up. It's his agent. It's his brother's work. It's not the Chinese club's work. It's his brother's. I'm pretty confident his brother contacted the Chinese clubs, etc., and said, here, do you want this guy? He's just won Austrian Football of the Year. You're going to get the biggest name out of Austria apart from David Alaba. You're not going to get him, so you can have the next biggest one. He's cutting up in the Premier League. Do you want him? And obviously Chinese clubs go, oh, yeah, we'll have him, yeah. I mean, as far as his brother actually said to them, you can get him for 35 million, because as soon as that bid landed, his brother was on TalkSport saying, this is a really good offer, they should take it. So, his brother's the one that's done all this. Miles at Hammer from Devon says, do you think we will spend 100 million this summer on transfers as well, or was last season a pig flying?
Yeah, a bit of a flying pig, Miles, but I do think he is going to have a significant. Do I think it'd be 100 million? No, but I would not be surprised if he gets 65, 70 million. I would imagine that was part of his negotiation when he signed, as was discussed earlier. Hence the reason we need as high a finish as possible.
If he means net spend, I'm going to say no. I think it'll be about 50, 60 million pounds, maybe at a push at the most. But obviously, if he's then just talking about outgoings, and possibly, because I think we'll see a few of our players leave, which will boost the kitty, so to speak. I think Obiang will leave. I think Anatovich may leave in the summer still. That's already, you're already looking at 40, 50 million pounds there. So add another 50 million pounds in from the board, and yeah, there's your 100 million. But if he's talking about net, I don't think so, unfortunately. The club and the board just don't have enough money. The club just don't have that much money. It's not like, this isn't like a dig. It's not like 2 years ago when they spent £3 million and came out like wondering what fans were going on about. It's not like that anymore. We've spent the money this season, but we realistically, £50 million probably our budget in relation to the income at the club. It's Alan, insurance number.
Alan.
Yeah, Alan. Insurance number says, is it too soon to talk about a new deal for Pellegrini? I like this question. Our owners always seem to let contracts run down before renewing, or is this because they've been less confident in Allardyce, Bilic and Moyes?
Alan, you're right. They do let it go too long. I don't want to see him last 6 months or anything like that, but I do think it's a touch too early. Give him a season, then maybe renew if he's done a fantastic job. But I want to see him see out his projects and sign for a little bit more. But it depends on him as well. I mean, he's been away from home. His wife's never left Chile, so his family's been there forever since. Maybe at some point he wants to go home. But yeah, I'd certainly wouldn't leave it till the last minute before offering him a new contract.
Yeah, I would give him one. If he would sign a new one tomorrow, I'd give him a new one tomorrow. Right, moving on to some questions from the YouTube lot. People that have left comments either on a previous video or on our community thing. There's a way, I don't really know how it works, in all honesty. I can put up a post that goes up on YouTube in your subscription feed, I think. It's not like a video, it's just like a box of text, and you can reply to it. So I did that today, and a few people replied with questions for the show. So we're going on to that part, and that new strange part. So Stuart Russell says, due to the whole striker saga in this window, in your opinion, should we scrap the January transfer window? He's obviously talking about football in general, and only have the summer one, or would you have the transfer window open all year round?
That one. I don't want to reduce it anymore. I do remember it being open all year round. Didn't mind it at all. It's quite good, actually. Quite like transfers, actually. So I understand why it's brought in, to give people stability, particularly in light of managers getting sacked and whatnot. I think that might be something to do. I'd rather see that regulated, the managerial thing, whereby you can sack a manager, but you've got to promote from within your own club or something. I think that's the real issue, because that really hinders people, and people lose their jobs and people lose their livelihoods. Or maybe have something where you had to promote somebody from the English game just to help English coaches. But clubs rarely lose out in terms of transfers because they're receiving a fee. So I wouldn't regulate it further. It's already too regulated.
I would keep it the way it is. I know a lot of people think it is sort of defunct now, the January transfer window, because it was brought in obviously to stop. I think it was around the FA Cup more than anything, because people in the FA Cup semi-final would come about, and then teams would go and strengthen in order to go win the FA Cup and stuff. I would keep it the way it is, because if you keep it open all season, if there's like 6 games to go, let's say City and Liverpool are neck and neck at the top with 6 games to go, City would easily, I wouldn't put past them thinking, we'll just go and, getting a £50 million player that we're going to go in and get them in the summer, well, we might as well just bring him in now. So we've got him for the last few games. So I think keep it as it is. This January transfer window is showing that a lot of Premier League clubs have wisened up to it a little bit. There's no one spending much money at all. There's not much money. This has been one of the most boring transfer windows I've ever remembered. And you know what? I quite like it, actually, because this is how it should be. Only use it if you need it type thing. You know, West Ham aren't using it because we don't need to. We don't need to do anything. So I would keep it as is. And Ben Davies says, hi, Geo and Gonzo. Do you think it's out of order to move the Liverpool game from Monday to Sunday? Should there be a replay against Wimbledon in relation to the fans? Now, just in case you don't know, we obviously play Wimbledon on Saturday. If it's a draw, our game at home to Liverpool next Monday gets moved to the Sunday because of the FA Cup replay.
Hello, Ben. Is that the Sunday before the Monday or the next Sunday?
Before it gets brought forward just under 24 hours, or just over 24 hours, sorry.
Well, it's always harsh when they change arrangements, but that had been changed anyway, hadn't it? That wasn't originally scheduled at Liverpool game for Monday.
It's obviously all games are obviously Saturday 3 p.m. And then obviously Sky come along and said, "Oh, for the Monday night one, I'll have West Ham Liverpool, please." And obviously there's a thing in there goes, "Well, hang on, because if any of them are involved in the FA Cup replay, it's midweek that week, so you cannot play on the Monday because we will be playing Wimbledon on the Wednesday. So the Monday game has to then become the Sunday game. If that makes sense."
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense. I wouldn't lie and say I felt that strongly about it. I think it's best when they don't move games. But from a purely selfish point of view, it would mean I would probably be able to attend, if you know what I mean. So that's it.
What I think is a problem here, actually, I get this guy's point, and I think it's rubbish. I've not booked anything for next week. I'm not going to the Liverpool game, partly because of this, because I thought, like, I'm not booking my travel for Monday, and the game might get moved. Now, bear in mind, I would have booked this travel before the draw was made, so I didn't know. I wouldn't have known we had Wimbledon. If I had, I might have booked it thinking we should get through. I should be okay. But we'd had a tricky fixture. Let's say we got Wolves away in the FA Cup or something. Then I'd be thinking, oh, there's a good chance this is going to go to a replay, actually. The game might get moved. So I'm not going to book anything. So I would find out on Saturday night if the following weekend, if I'm going down on the Sunday or the Monday. So there's no way I can book anything. I know I'm being a bit selfish here, but he's asking for our opinions on it. I think the people that's culpable for this, it's not Sky or BT, it's the Premier League. Whoever at the Premier League has allowed there to be a fixture slot on Monday night at 8 p.m. is to blame, because they know that the FA Cup replays are that week, etc. So they should say to them, no, you can't have that week. When the FA Cup replays may be on, you cannot have the Monday night fixture. You can pick your Saturdays and Sunday games, of course, but the Monday night's a no-go because someone might have to then play an FA Cup replay. It's the Premier League that's to blame on this one. I know the Sky TV and the BT will be the ones that get the brunt of the anger from the fans, but I'm looking at the Premier League. Premier League, it's you that's ruined it for me. Charlie Woodgate, what would your thoughts be on a strikerless system with Yarmolenko, Nasri, Lanzini, and Anderson? Don't usually like no striker systems, but I've got to admit that personnel excites me.
I like the mixture. I think you've got to accept that some players, when you have a good squad, are going to be on the bench. I've waited for a long, long time for us to play 4-4-2, and I understand why we're not playing it at the moment. Having really enjoyed when Pellegrini played with two strikers, I'm not sure I'd be overly thrilled to move to a system with no strikers, although I'm sure it'd be quite attacking with Pellegrini. I like to see a striker, preferably two on the pitch. So yeah, I would certainly with respect not be going for that particular blend of player there with no strikers.
We're already halfway there though, playing Anatovich up front though, aren't we? I know he's playing as a striker, but he's not a striker, so we're already halfway there. Even when he is up front, he drops deep, etc. I wouldn't mind seeing us playing a strikerless system, but probably only when we're winning. Do you know, if we were 2-0 up or something, I wouldn't mind us taking off the striker and having that kind of creative front line and saying, do what you want, lads, entertain the fans for a little bit. You know, do the little 1-2s and the touches on the edge of the box. And if Lanzini's sort of playing the number 9 role for 5 minutes and Nasri moves in and Lanzini covers Nasri, etc., that would be entertaining to watch. A bit like Spain when they did at the Euros. They used Fabregas as the false 9, as they called it, didn't they? So I'm for it in certain circumstances, and I don't think, you know, from kickoff at home to Bournemouth or whatever is the right way to go about it. I think a lot of fans would see that as negative, actually, and whether it is or not is a different thing. Finn JD says, is there any players that we've sold over the last few transfer windows that you think we should have kept? And do you think they'd fit into our system better now?
Well, I mean, just Payet's the one. Payet should never have been sold. It was as simple as that. He's the only. Geo said world class. He's absolutely right. The only world class player before him, actually, it's probably Tevez. But yeah, I mean, just should never have been sold. I can't, off the top of my head. I mean, he's the one that stands out. Everyone else is perfectly replaceable. Perfectly replaceable. Yeah, there's no point harking back to Mascherano and Tevez and X. It's just too long ago. But yeah, in recent years, that's the one that stands out like a sore thumb. Yeah,
apart from Payet, I'm struggling to think of anyone. I mean, Feghouli, would I have liked to have seen a bit more of him?
What's he done? That's what I don't know. I'm asking. What's he done since he left?
Yeah, so I don't know, actually. Apart from Payet, there's nobody really that springs to mind. A lot of people will be sitting shouting James Tompkins at the screen, but I'm not overly fussed about him, in all honesty. I think we've got a good deal getting the money for him. He's done okay at Palace, but I don't think would he come back and dislodge Balbuena and Diop? No, he wouldn't. Was he better than James Collins last season? No, I don't think he was. Is he better than Winston Reid when Reid's fit? No, he's not. So he's not too fussed. It's difficult to think of any. Oh, I know another one. Demba Ba. When he left, I was a bit pissed off. I would have liked to have seen him stay. Obviously, Scott Parker's another one, but we understand why he left and stuff. But apart from that, I can't think of anyone. Enner Valencia, why not? Someone's got to say Enner Valencia. But Fegouli's one player I would have liked to have seen more from. I thought we shut the door on him a little bit too soon. I thought he had a little bit to offer. But yeah, credit to the board. I think that's one thing you can actually say to them is that you've retained our best players, and bar Payet, you've managed to retain our best players. None of them have left; they're all still here, etc. So fair play to them for that. Nothing here. It's a creative name. Says, do you expect us to break into the top 6, and if so, when? That's our second last question of the night, Gonzo. Due to the time.
Well, I got answer. I do it. Yeah, so I've got to. Yeah, I've got to answer yes, haven't I, to answer the second question? So I'm going to answer no, and I'm going to answer the second question anyway. So it's no, but can we? Yes, and that's when we spend a comparable amount of money to them. It's as simple as that. If we spent 100 million next season and the season after, so for the 3 seasons running of Pellegrini's contract, we spent 300 million. We'd be knocking or in that top 6. I'm pretty certain.
We're obviously not ready for it yet. We're quite far away. We got beat by Roma 2-0 at the weekend. That was a reminder, if anything. That was a reminder you are a mid-table side. That's what it was. It was a reminder. And until we can listen, I think we've got a top 6 manager. Okay, I think we've got the best manager a club like West Ham could attract. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Pellegrini wasn't at West Ham today. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, someone left a top 6 club. But Man United, when they got rid of Mourinho, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Pellegrini linked with Man United, even with an 18-month contract or something. We definitely have a top 6 manager. We've got a couple of players capable of top 6 clubs. You know, Rice. I think Diop will get there one day. I think Zabaleta actually could still cut it for a top 6 club. I think Fabianski could argue. Lanzini and Nanovic on his day. Anderson's getting there. We could get another 2 or 3 of those players in of that ilk and mould them. But we also need to sort out this injury crap, because that is what's going to stop us. Okay, we are never going to get into the top 6 until we can stop getting big injuries to our main players. Jack Wilshere was brought in the summer to become a pinnacle in this side. We've barely seen him because he's been injured for so long. Now I know everybody say, he's always injured and stuff. Okay, well, Lanzini, I know that was unfortunate. He got injured in training, but he's been out all season. Yarmolenko played about 3 or 4 games for us, then got injured. He went down against, I think it was Spurs. He went down against Spurs after 5-10 minutes. And you know, until we can sort out the medical department, there's no point spending all this money, because they're not always going to be on the pitch, and it's frustrating because all you have to do is look at some other clubs. Usually the top 6 clubs, actually, if you look at them, their best players seem to be fit for the whole season. Now, as I say, unfortunately, my biggest argument is going off the table here, because you could point at Spurs and say Harry Kane always seemed to be fit. Now he's just got injured and stuff. But if you look at Chelsea, Hazard is always kicking about. Kane has usually been injury-free for most of it. Look at Liverpool. Salah even had an injury while he's been there. I know he dislocated his shoulder in the Champions League, but apart from that, has he had an injury? Mane, Firmino, they seem to start every single game, those three, but West Ham can't even keep half their team fit for the season. So until we sort that out, we can forget it. Last question of the night, and we're not going to take any questions from the live chat tonight just because we don't have enough time. We've got so many on social media. So I said to Gonzo, we're just going to not talk about too much and just go straight into the question, have a questionnaire kind of show. So last question, and this one is from the live chat because I spotted it and I thought it was a good question. T36, he says, who's the most creative player at the club? And the reason I picked this out is because I think there's a few different answers and I'm intrigued just to see who you'll choose.
Well, I will go to my default answer. I think Lanzini is the most creative player in the club. I guess the answers you're going to speak about. Well, I'll let you speak about your answers. I think Lanzini is the most creative player at the club.
I don't think it's that straightforward anymore. I think he's our best player. I think he's got that touch about him. I'm tempted to pick Anderson. I mean, I think Nasri could become that player, but we ain't seen it yet. You know, he's poor against Bournemouth, fantastic against Arsenal. I'm going to say Anderson. I do think Anderson's got that vision that... I think Lanzini's got the vision, but I think Anderson's vision is even better than Lanzini's, actually. I think he can see passes that no one else can see in our team, and I think he can see passes that the guy making the run can't even see, if that makes sense. The amount of times I've seen him do a pass and the guy is whoever's running, so let's just say Alan Creswell for the sake of it, Creswell will make a run, he'll stop making his run, assuming he's not going to get the ball, and Anderson will actually pass it. And you can see them think, oh, he's actually found me. Anderson's too good with his passing sometimes. He needs to start reining it in a little bit. They're just not on his wavelength.
I'm like that when I play FIFA, when I play it alongside other people. That's me. That's me, mate Mark. I say, sorry, mate. I didn't think you were going to give me a ball. Well, you got to have some faith. I've got the vision, the third eye, whatever. That's me, mate.
Interesting. Well, Lanzini from Gonzo. Anderson for me. Let us know in the comments below what you think. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the feed on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review as well. Be nice. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You haven't already done so. And also the other one, which the link is in the description below. We've had lots of content going up on that channel recently. So make sure you're not missing out on any of the videos because they are quite good and sometimes they're better than the ones on the main channel. So go ahead over there and take a listen. Drop a like if you've enjoyed it. Gonzo, have you enjoyed the video?
I have. What, this one?
Yeah.
This video? Oh, I don't know. I've not watched it yet.
Brilliant. Right, anyway, well, I will see Gonzo at some point. We will be back on Thursday night, 8:30 with our Wimbledon previews. We look ahead to the FA Cup. If it's already after 8:30 on Thursday, well, go watch it. It's out. Go have a little watch. And we will see you again soon. Thank you for watching.